Welcome to another episode of Unboxing Entrepreneurship. Now, every founder wants to think about different revenue streams because they do want to see the income coming into the company. But if you are thinking about multiple revenue streams, what are the things that you need to look at and how can you go about making it successful? Abhijeet, the founder of Cloud IoT, and he's going to talk about the different revenue streams that his company has and how he has made it successful. So let's get right into it. Hi, Abhijeet. Welcome to Unboxing Entrepreneurship.
Thanks very much, Pallavi, for having me on this program.
That's great. Let's tell our audience a little bit about what Cloud does and what has your journey been like.
Absolutely, always happy to talk about it. So we need to be the storyteller of our own startup. So thanks for giving me this opportunity, right? So I'm Abhijeet Deogirikar. I'm a founder of Cloud IoT, which is what we call as an Industry 4.0 provider company. And not everybody would know what it means. So I'll just explain a little bit more. Right now we are in a computer age and we are very soon moving into an age called M2M, machines talking to other machines. And which means a lot of the niche technologies we keep hearing on the news, right? Machine learning and data science and IoT and augmented reality. How do we leverage that for scaled industries? So what Cloud does is we are in the business of building customized solutions using all these technologies. And our primary focus is on the micro, small, and medium companies. So that is what we do. We provide Industry 4 solutions to micro, small, and medium companies. And one unique thing we are trying to do is we are trying to democratize this technique. This is a very high-end technology. So far, only very large companies were able to adopt and make use of it. So our goal is to make it democratized so that everybody, no matter how big or small, should take benefit out of it. So that's what we do. And you spoke about multiple revenue streams. So a very important part of my business is a second revenue stream, which is about 30% of my business, which is a training vertical. So while we are building all these niche solutions for we largely serve manufacturing industry. So while we are building these solutions, we are also very heavily invested mentally and effort-wise into bringing these solutions to the academic fold, faculty as well as student communities. There's a lot more to talk about that. But these are the two things that Cloud does every day. So build solutions for industry and bring those technology, we call it T3P, tools, technologies, and practices into the academic fold.
Yeah, great. Okay, so, and you've been doing this for how many years?
So we were incorporated in September 2018. So we're just about 4.5 years old. September will be 5 years old.
Awesome. All right. And has your training vertical been in existence from day one?
Absolutely. And thanks for asking that question, because most startups pivot to doing training in lean times or when they feel the need that we need some more revenue streams. Fortunately for Cloud, training is, I can say it's in our DNA, because there are two goals in our articles of incorporation. The first goal is build solutions for industry, and the very second goal is conduct training for the next generation of technologists. So to be honest, my first paycheck came from industry and my second paycheck came from training.
Awesome. That's great. So obviously you have understood the very, the importance of training from day one. And I know you mentioned that, you've had experience in the past as well. So I think that's where your insight comes, from day one of the incorporation of Cloud. I had a guest last week who did talk to me about, that it's very common for founders to get too distracted and think, oh, let's do this also, let's do that also, multiple, like his point was that there are multiple, when you think about multiple revenue streams, you also kind of spread yourself out too thin. You're focusing on multiple things which are very different. They require different approaches. So have you gone through that phase where you feel you're being pulled in two different directions with two very different revenue streams?
Well, I think that shiny object syndrome is very real, definitely. And
Yes.
if you start putting your time into a lot of things simultaneously, then yes, it becomes a problem. Fortunately for us, we never looked at training as also an also have or also ran kind of thing. It has been very closely interwoven with every other part of our business. We have been cross-pollinating, right? And I'll give you some examples of that when we talk more about training. We have been cross-pollinating between our training vertical and our delivery verticals as well. So I have never, yeah, so a little bit of push and pull exists, that
Yes.
you have to have certain trade-offs. But since it's the two things, we know what role each of these verticals is playing in the broader scheme of things. So we haven't allowed that to really come in the way in a very big manner, fortunately. Uh, so for us, it is not something that is a distraction. It is
Yes.
something which complements what we are doing in every other part of it, of Copper Cloud.
Right. I'd love to hear the examples that you mentioned, where you've been able to cross-pollinate from one to the other. That will help the audience to also understand what kind of multiple revenue streams are good, to have in parallel.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So I'll share two examples each way, right?
Yeah.
So one thing is we keep working with, and see, I'm coming from a purely IT background. I did 16 years in a pure play IT field, and then around 2016 I got into electronics and wireless and IoTs very soon thereafter. So for me, the learning curve has been as good as it would be for a student. So it's like being in school again for me, right? So out of that, we were able to we were able to do a lot of things differently because we were not tied to this is the way electronics should happen. So we
Yeah.
brought in a lot of IT related architecture concepts and libraries and APIs into the electronics field. And we felt nobody else was doing this. So that we cross-pollinated and we brought that into the students' sphere. Um, One more way we do this is it's not just students. We also engage faculty as well as non-teaching staff in academic institutions. And we try and get them engaged with for 1 week or 2 weeks with what we are doing for the industry. And when they go back to their colleges, they bring back a wealth of things that this is what I'm teaching you, right? This is the foundation, but the full structure will be built this way. And that's what we have just come back learning. So this is cross-pollinating from my delivery stream into the academics. And the reverse process, I think, is equally important because when we go and we conduct training engagements in a lot of different formats. So you'll be pleased to know that in 5 years, we have trained just about 10,000 students in a lot of different formats. Some of these are like just 2 hour exposure. Some of these are 5 day training. Some of these are semester long engagements, right? So because of these engagements, we have been fortunate to come across very talented students, very talented and aware faculty members. And there are maybe 2 or 3 students who are now passed out from the colleges, but they're working with me in some capacity. Uh, they are maybe freelancing for me or they are working full time for me. So that's one example. Faculty members we have engaged that if we need some research done and we don't want to do it on Copper Cloud very hard budgeted time, and we do a freelancing engagement even with the academics things. So it's a win-win for us, right?
Yeah.
And so it works.
Got it. Got it. Okay. No, I think there is definitely a lot of advantage in industry and academicians partnering together because, we know that when you're working in the industry, of course, you have a lot of practical knowledge and maybe you're much more clued into the trends and what else is happening. Having said that, you do forget a lot of the theory that you have or like the basic concepts that you have studied or that you have applied early on in your career because you're so focused on the now and today that you don't think about what you did before. Whereas I feel with academicians, the reverse happens that they are so theoretical that they may not understand that these are the practical challenges that somebody faces. And the fact that you are bringing both of them together, I'm sure it benefits you, but it also benefits the academicians, right? And in turn the students, right? Because they have a much deeper insight into what's happening in the real world, and then they can translate, pass on that knowledge to their students. So it's literally like a funnel thing, right?
Definitely very true. And this materializes in many ways. If you permit me, I'll give you one more example of that. I love
Sure,
to
sure.
share examples, stories,
Yeah.
right? And real stories. So
Yeah.
one challenge with academia right now is, it's practically not possible to keep up with the pace at which the technology is changing. Technology is
Yes.
changing every 6 months to 1 year.
Mm,
Syllabuses change every 5 to 8 years, right?
mm,
Now, autonomous colleges are slightly more empowered to kind of do better, but
mm,
we can't expect. It's nobody's fault. But
mm,
who is going to then bridge that gap? It is people like us, correct?
mm,
So, and we always, in every kind of training engagement, we do get this very encouraging feedback that it's great we had this session. Now we
mm,
can take it and see how do we modify our syllabuses, or if not, if syllabus doesn't permit, how do we empower our kids to do more of this in
mm.
non-traditional challenges. And we
Right.
have had so many. I mean, it's great. It is so satisfying to see results out of this. So we have
Mm,
had more than a few students, right, who attend these sessions from us. One
mm,
session is never enough, but then these people did internships with us for 6 months or 1 year.
mm,
And
mm,
what happens is the language they speak is aligned now
mm.
with the language of the industry. So, for
Yeah.
example, one student, he worked with me in IoT space, and
Mm,
then since they were in second year, and when the
mm,
time came for them to pick up a job, and he was talking at par with the interviewer that if it is possible, I would like to work in a DevOps field. Now, most
mm,
students even don't know DevOps exists, and the
mm.
interviewer says, "How do you know about this?"
Yeah.
Right? That happens. Then people are there's a general mindset right now for young students that we should do more IT and they don't look at
Mm,
more real world solutions. But people
mm,
who are working with us, if they taste
mm,
this side of technology, they tend
mm,
to explore more in a core field or build
mm,
products and such.
mm,
Uh, Faculty members, now after attending a few of these trainings, our faculty members have come to us, so we want to do a project in this field. We like
mm,
what we saw in the workshop, but we would like to
mm.
convert it into a government funded project. So there are multiple directions from which we keep getting this very reinforcing feedback that this is something that is happening right and we should do
Yes.
more of it.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. All right, tell me, okay, as a founder, now how do you structure your business to make sure that your training vertical is not affected and your service vertical is not affected? You mentioned that 30% of your revenue comes from here, and you also told me you have also told me before that initially when you started, you were taking a lot of the trainings yourself. So now, is your business structured in such a way that every employee gets both responsibilities, or do you have very separate business units that look at both verticals?
Right, that's a great question, and I would take just one step back and then come back to this specific item and to say
Sure.
why this training vertical got started in the first place.
Yeah.
Right, because we had certain goals in mind when we said that
Mm,
we will not just do delivery, we will also do training. Firstly,
mm,
we are all four directors in corporate cloud are very much all of us have a thread of teaching in us.
mm, mm,
I have been an interviewer for more than 14 years for
mm,
MNCs. And the
mm,
first thing that comes to mind is even the brightest students, there's a gap between
mm.
knowledge and skills, right?
Yes.
And the industry environment right now is heavily moving, and where this is
Mm,
happening very fast from a
mm,
knowledge-based hiring to a skills-based hiring, right?
mm,
And what we find is that gap is a pretty big gap to cover, right? So
mm,
there's a lot of unlearning that people need to do
mm.
before we can really push them into productive roles in the industry. And this is
Yes.
not just for startups, this problem exists everywhere, right?
Mm,
So first thing we felt that now that we are running our own show, we
mm,
have to do something about this problem, because this can't now initially we were operating under certain policies of another employer. Now
yes.
we are in charge, so we have to
Mm,
do things that we feel should be done differently. And
mm,
it was like even before the name Copper Cloud was coined, one
mm,
of us said we will have a training vertical, and
mm.
nobody had a different view. Everybody was on page, right?
Yeah. Mm,
So that's why this began, right?
mm,
And we have this motto in Copper Cloud
mm,
training vertical that
mm,
we are not delivering training, we
mm,
are delivering learning.
mm,
So my job is not to come there for 5 days, train and give you some assignments and go back. I will be
mm,
with you, or my team will be with you until
mm,
it gets absorbed and percolated and
mm,
digested, and you are able
mm,
to do stuff with these skills. So conversion from knowledge to skill, wo jab tak ho nahi
mm,
jata, I'm there.
mm, mm,
And because of that, this I will tie up with your original question. It's not
mm.
enough to go and teach people stuff. One of the
Yeah.
biggest problems in learning IoT or cloud or web is people understand the stuff, but everybody is hesitant कि हमारे पास cloud server नहीं है. So how will I
Mm,
practice these skills? If after 1 week of delivering the training, people don't practice the skills, then that is gone. So we said, no, we have to do something. So we created training servers free for students, right? So it's not just enough for me to give you knowledge. I need to
Yes.
create an environment where you can practice the skills.
Correct.
So we invite those students. There's an open invitation. Anybody that's attended anything out of Copper Cloud is free for almost like lifetime guarantee. You come to my lab, you want to practice a skill, you want to use my lab, you want to talk to the experts here, lifetime guarantee. Come anytime. So that is part of our commitment. Now, coming to this part, that how do we do this? And yes, it's almost like running two companies at once. So there is, apart from a few things, like we do IoT and Industry 4 in industry, and we do IoT and Industry 4 in training. But we run 14 different kinds of training courses, and not all of them are IoT. So which means a very small part of my training vertical is staffed by my FTE, by people who work for me on the delivery side. So yes, it's a challenge, but at the same time, it's also a good thing. Because if my same team is engaged, there's a training calendar and the delivery calendar, they'll just be pulled apart, right? So it's a blessing in disguise that we need different. So for my big industry 4.0 delivery projects, I have dedicated teams because they are doing this work every day of every week, kind of thing. For my training, that tends to be a little, if not seasonal, then at least weekends are heavy in trainings and all. So what we do is we engage people from the industry to come and do freelance trainings for us. And these people have at least 15 to 20 years in the industry. Because we are all about, imparting industry-oriented skills, not knowledge. And if I bring somebody who has worked in cloud for 15 years, then there's no better person to train people on that. If people have worked in embedded systems or some other technology for 10 years, then that person will come and do the training for them. So, and the side effect of this is all these colleagues of mine from the industry get to try out a little bit of a taste of a startup, right? Because all of these have a little bit of an entrepreneurship said in their minds. And they say, I don't think I'm ready for it, but I want to make a small start. And say, okay, start with me, right? So how I manage the conflict, I have a separate dedicated team for delivery, which contributes in their subjects to the training. But otherwise, largely, training, I have got 12 people on my roles right now who are very, very experienced experts in their domain, and they deliver the training stuff for me. I am the common factor. I am the linchpin. I do both. So yes, it becomes a problem. But as a founder, it's my job to train my team to such a point where they don't need me anymore. And the moment my delivery team stops needing me anymore, I'm free to do more on the training front.
So that's where your interest lies.
Training is very close to my heart. And so my job on the delivery front is to create the systems, create the technologies, and train my team to be self-sufficient. Whereas training is something which I would continue doing to some extent. I used to do all the training. Today, I'm doing about 20% of the trainings that Copper Cloud does. That might go down to 10%, but I will always remain, engaged in conducting some training myself. One big reason is I have to know how the systems I have set up are working. So it keeps giving me continuous feedback. And secondly, what happened, it gives me opportunity to explore newer areas where trainings might be required. So always be in there.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So this was, I mean, we talked about it before that I'm also thinking about a training vertical, but also like you mentioned that, it is pretty common for companies to think about training in certain fields because it helps them also stay connected with what is required. And, it helps them build a pipeline of people who could potentially work for them or, work for someone else. So it's a common scaling vertical that people think about. I think what I took away from this conversation that, of course, you started at the very beginning. You were very clear that you wanted to have these two verticals. So you had a very clear plan. And I feel that that is the biggest takeaway for me, that irrespective of when you start, you have to treat like a different vertical requires the same amount of effort that, your first startup would. You need the same sort of goal setting, you need the same sort of dedication, and you need the same sort of staffing. because otherwise, like we talked about in the beginning, that you could be spreading yourselves too thin and not, justifying or not doing justification to the vertical that you are focusing on. So I think that is for me the biggest thing that I take away, that you have to be really focused. And I'm thankful to you that you walked us through the entire process, the decision making, and what is it that you do at Copper Cloud. With examples, I think it helps to crystallize that knowledge a little bit more.
To be honest, Pallavi, what I would say is it's not just good to have that plan. I think it is essential, especially startup is a place of uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
So I would say that looking in hindsight, and we didn't start two verticals to have, to remain in business. It happened out of passion. Then during the lean years, 1.5 years of pandemic, it became a survival channel for us. But it did so well that today it's a growth channel. So you never know where it will take you. And secondly, most, especially startups like me, I didn't know how to run I didn't know what is a company, right? Things just unfold. And a lot of plans will not work, right?
Yes.
No plan survives first contact with reality. So,
Yes.
but it is important to have a plan. But fortunately for us, training is one plan which worked exactly as we wanted it to. And I'll tell you if you allow me 1 minute, I will give you a very important part of why two verticals or more verticals are required. See, what happens is you start out with a plan. I will build this product or I'll build this service, and you think it's the greatest service in the world. That's why you're starting it, right? Nothing wrong with that. But when reality hits you, it might work as you expected. It might work better than expected in very rare cases. But in most cases, it will not work as well as you expect in the first attempt. So what do you do when that happens? You thought you will make, 50,000, 1 lakh a week or a month, and that doesn't materialize. And then you don't know what to do. So for me, the biggest value in having a second revenue stream is a survival vertical. Because what is the lifeblood, if you ask me, of a startup? It is revenue, but not just revenue. It is recurring, predictable revenue.
Yes.
You should be able to know how much money I'll make today, how much money the company will make 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And you can't do that kind of modeling if your deals are coming 6 months apart. And many times you are into PR and sales and marketing, you know that 8 out of 10 leads will not materialize into deals. And it takes a little bit of time for us to wake up to this reality. So for me, we must have, all startup founders must think about what will pay the bills. Now, the moonshots are not going to pay the bills for the first 3 to 5 years, right? So for me, training, as you said, we should know what role each channel is going to play for you. So for me, the training channel started out as a survival channel that even if I don't have any big deals for 1 year, I'll be able to pay my people, I'll be able to buy components, I'll be able to rent out a property, travel to client locations. So that is the purpose, that it's not a very big revenue vertical, but it's a recurring, predictable revenue vertical. I think that's the lifeblood of a company in the first few years. And once the big money starts rolling, you can always decide how you want to refashion your survival vertical. For us, the survival vertical has now become a growth vertical. So I think that perspective I would like your viewers to keep in mind, which we have learned the hard way. But fortunately for us, it kept us afloat. And I'm sure this will help anybody else. So while doing that, then suddenly we found that it's not just about workshops. We are running vocational courses in IoT. So people are going to get Bachelor of IoT out of what we are doing. People are doing centers of excellence. People are doing value add courses. People are sending their faculty members to us. That please engage them in industrial products. You never know where something will grow.
That must be a huge shot in the arm to have that sort of feedback from external people, that kind of validation to say that yes, what you're delivering is truly adding value, and there was a gap which no one was addressing before.
Right. Fortunately, we seem to have hit the right mark. But yeah, evolution happens. We have to evolve in training also. But the founding thought was sound, and now it's not just survival; it's growth vertical now. So we are hoping that it will become as big as the delivery vertical in a couple of years.
Yes. And I hope that for you as well. And thank you so much for sharing, such detailed information. I believe that this topic is something that will really, help people plan their long term. Where do they see their company going in the next few years? And I'm really grateful that you shared so many examples and such great details from your experience. Thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much, Pallavi, for having me here. And let's talk again soon again. Thank you. Thank
All
you so much.
right. Thanks. Bye.